Let's go to Elaine in Pittsburgh. Hey, what's up, Elaine?
Hey, Dr. John, how are you?
Remarkable. How are you?
Good. I am now a subscriber to your newsletter.
Yes! Guess who's not? James and Kelly.
I am now.
Oh, I beat him.
Oh, you are now, James?
I told you I literally did it when we were talking about it.
Have you already hit unsubscribe?
It's probably getting filtered through spam.
It is. Dude, hey, you just made my day, Elaine. I am not subscribed, but I'm going to be by the end of today. So you beat me to my own newsletter. We're going to make
I expect really big things.
All right, so let's take your expectations and dial them back about 40%. But we're going to get there.
Okay.
We're going to get there. Thank you so much. Hey, so what's up? How can I help?
Well, I'm calling today because I have a husband who I feel is a bit of a hypochondriac.
Uh-oh.
So I was just looking for some insight into how I can better meet his needs because I feel that every reaction I have to him ends in a very negative way.
So why do you think he's a hypochondriac? What does that mean to you?
So I didn't notice anything while we were dating or engaged, probably infatuated with him still, And then after...
How long have y'all been married?
7 years.
Oh,
yeah.
All right.
So after some, I noticed while we were married, I'm like, oh, he complains of headaches a lot. A couple days a week, he's complaining of headaches. And then I would say within the past 6 months to a year, it's really gotten to the point where he was convinced he had Lyme's disease. He's going to his PCP, requesting blood work. He's been to a cardiologist within the past year, complaining of chest pain. He's racking up medical bills at this point. And he went to a podiatrist for foot pain. He went to his ear hurt, so he was going to an ear, nose, and throat doctor. And then it just sort of got to the point where about a week or two ago, we're laying in bed and he looks at me and he goes, I think I have a brain tumor. And I just was like, what? How? What? So I said to him, look me in the eye and tell me that you honestly think that you have a brain tumor. So he did, and he was very serious. And then, of course, it escalated into...
You don't believe me, and how can you not love me? I'm dying, and you don't even care.
Exactly. Yes, exactly. You nailed it. Yes, and it's not true. I love him so much, and I just want to give him what he needs, and I just cannot figure out what exactly he wants. I feel like at this point he almost wants to be sick, and he's looking for something, and I just don't understand what he's looking for, and I just really want to help him, and I'm not sure how.
Oh man, so this is beyond. So when you first said he's a hypochondriac, I thought it was generalization, but my wife reminds me often that she had children, and so she knows I have a headache, but I need to get up and fill in the blank, right? Or
that's exactly how I feel. On one hand, I feel I want to help him. I want to meet whatever needs he has, and I can't figure out what that is. But on the other hand, I'm like, chop, chop, buddy, we got history,
I got a brain tumor. Well, great. Empty the dishwasher. We'll talk about it later. Excellent.
Right, exactly.
So has there been any sort of finding at all from any of these doctor visits?
No. And then I've noticed that after he goes, he kind of lays off of it. He's kind of good to go. Okay. But then they just keep building up on top of each other. It gets even more almost fantastical. Now we're at the point where he has a brain tumor. I'm like, oh, gosh.
Number one, nobody's ever used the word fantastical on this show ever. So, Elaine, you get a special star. I may call you out in the next newsletter for excellent word use. Fantastical. I'm writing that down. All right. So this actually sounds... So hypochondriac is one of those words like narcissist or I've got anxiety or I've got ADHD. It's a diagnostic that's thrown around a lot. Mm-hmm. This actually sounds like what you're dealing with. Not just somebody who's got a low pain tolerance or somebody who actually has some medical issues that they're trying to figure out. This sounds like somebody who has made medical fears a part of their identity. So having a medical diagnosis becomes part of a hypochondriac's identity. You nailed it. It feels like he wants to be sick. And he doesn't want to be sick, but he doesn't want to hurt and be dying, but this has become part of his identity, that I go to doctors, I Google things, and I've got phantom pains and et cetera. So hypochondriac, another way to think of it is an illness, anxiety disorder is really what it is. And it does sound like he needs some psychological care right now. And not in an over-dramatic way, but I do think he needs to go talk to a counselor about where this is coming from. Because here's the loop you get in. You go to a doctor, they do all the tests, and they say, I don't know, take some vitamin D. I mean, they'll make up something. They'll give you something. Or try this thing for 12 days and see if it feels better. And this is my opinion. I don't have any data to back this up. But I know that anxiety, I do have data to back up anxiety is a connection issue. It is people who are disconnected. I have a strong hypothesis that those who struggle from hypochondria, they get that connection through doctors, through experts. Somebody that will look at them, give them 30 minutes of undivided attention, give them their expertise, their opinions, and their bodies go, whew, I'm connected. And then they get home and they spin up something else, and then now I've got to go find the next. So you went from headaches to foot pain to any sorts of anything. Has there been a lot of COVID-related stuff?
No, actually, no COVID stuff.
Okay. So, and then now we're at brain tumor. I mean, cancer is usually the big one, right? I've got cancer. This is happening. It's all coming down. And let's be honest, there is a minuscule statistical possibility that he's got brain cancer. Probably not. We all walk around with that every day, right? So most hypochondriacs, the word I've heard used that I love is they need a witness. And when we love somebody who is struggling with this type of challenge, it becomes more, as you say, fantastical. And it's hard to be a witness to, like, hey, look, I'm riding a unicorn. Check it out. And it's like, okay, great. I need you to go outside and finish the yard or whatever. And we also have to realize that the mind is so powerful, so incredible. The research on placebo is staggering. And it can create real pain and real challenges. It can manufacture them on its own, if you will. So what I'm telling you this is actually hard. This is harder than it sounds. And I do think he needs to go talk to somebody. And I do think it's probably rooted in anxiety. And again, I'm not talking to him. And I do think there's some peace he finds through the connection through medical providers. And it does get really expensive, and it does get really, really hard to be in a relationship with somebody, similar to somebody who's struggling with anxiety. What are things you all have tried in your home?
Well, I've tried everything from sympathy to tough love, and it all seems to end the same way as it, like exactly like you said, like you don't love me, you don't care, and then it ends up with me saying, "No, I do love you." That's why. And I'm also a nurse, so and my
No, you're not going to bring your knowledge to this situation, are you?
Right. So he'll ask for my opinion, and then he does. And you're right. We have half bottles of pills laying around, and the foot doctor said take these pills for a month, and that was over the summer, and there's still a half bottle of pills.
Of course.
In the cupboard.
We've moved on. Yeah.
Right. So if I tell him straight out, like if I take the tough love approach and say it's just a total nightmare. But I also don't want to if you give in to the like, oh, well, maybe you should go get it checked out. That causes almost like a spiral as well. Like he just keeps going with it, and until we end up at a doctor. And I do sense that it is much more anxiety related. And if I bring that up to him, I have brought that up to him. It's no, you don't believe me.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's really hard to be in relationship there, because then it's a spiral at that point. You can't win that engagement. You're in a place where you can't fix this. What you can do is love him. You can, the next time you'll go to some doctor, to go with him and let them know, I believe at this point, here's our trajectory. And you hand that doctor, here's the last set of, let me back up. Here's, and I've talked about this, I think, on this show. I know I've talked about it in some live events recently. really cool. I read a book by Ethan Kross, and I read several books a week, and occasionally one or two things will stick with me, or I'll add to a body of knowledge. This is one that was extraordinary for me. I'd never heard it. I thought it was mumbo jumbo, and I've tried it, and it is unbelievable how successful it's been. So I run pretty hot when it comes to anxiety, and I have a pretty regimented life. It's a silly, fun life, but I have a regimented life so that I don't get to those places. And over the last decade, I'm almost anxiety-free. But if I get tired and I don't eat right and then I start withdrawing, and I can find myself spun up if I let it get that way. So Ethan Kross, the book's called Chatter, and it's about the inner voice. And there's evidently been a lot of research on the inner voice in our heads that just keep going all day, every day, just telling stories. And he dropped some information that I'd never heard before. And here's what he said. He said, when our bodies think and solve for I or we, there is a neural circuit that the I and we conversation inside our head operates on, and it's the fight or flight circuit. So I don't know what I need to do. I don't know if I should be buying this thing. Should I even be moving to this house? Should I marry this person? Should we have another kid? That is an immediate threat that your body tries to solve, and it solves it. And you know this as a nurse. It solves it with adrenaline and cortisol and dopamine, all kinds of things, with all sorts of hormones and neurotransmitters, all this stuff. When we think of them, our bodies don't take off on us. It doesn't try to solve that. It's a different circuit. And I hate using tech metaphors to describe the human brain, but it's easy on this one. So what this guy's recommendation was, when you have hard decisions to make, if you're struggling with addiction, if you are working through really tough challenges, talk to yourself in the third person. Write your journal in the morning in the third person. Because here's what happens. When I'm struggling, I teach relationships and marriage and parenting for a living. And there are times I don't know what to do with my kids. And I'm just scrolling like in my mind. Like, what am I supposed to do here? Then my buddy calls and says, hey, my son is fill in the blank, is doing this, this, and this. And I can go, well, yeah, just do that, that, and that. Because my brain's not in fight or flight. My prefrontal cortex is still connected. And so if I talk to myself in the third person, often my brain doesn't react. My thinking brain, my rational brain stays intact. So what does this have to do with y'all's situation? Number one, I want you to keep a front and present spreadsheet or a Word document that has all of the ailments and the dates and what y'all did.
Okay.
And I want this to be an ongoing list that can be seen, because anxiety thrives off chaos. And so we're going to clear this up. And then what we're going to do is we're going to talk to, let's say your husband's name is Tom. We're going to talk to Tom in the third person. Because my guess is if your husband had a buddy show up and say, hey, man, I thought I had foot pain, and then I thought I had chest pain, and then I thought I had headache pain, and then I thought I had neck issues, pretty sure it's a brain tumor, your husband would probably say, I bet you don't, just as a first default response. But when it's your body takes over for you, and then it's in fight or flight, and then we're not thinking straight. And so when he comes to you with a new ailment, I want you all to write it down, and maybe even put, I'm going to be obnoxious here, okay? But maybe put a Star Wars figure or a Lego figure or some sort of something on the coffee table, and I want you to talk to Tom and say, tell Tom what your symptoms are. What are you feeling? And what would we tell Tom that he should probably do? And your husband should be able to have that conversation without it becoming internalized. And the hope there is you begin to have more, I don't say rational, but more fact-based, more direct, more rational conversations about, do I really have a brain tumor? What is the data that would tell me I have a brain tumor? And begin to go down that road. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then when you go to the doctor next time, I want you to take this list and hand it to the doctor and let the doctor know, I am concerned as a medical professional that this may be an anxiety disorder more so than physiological challenge. Mm-hmm. And your husband may get upset with you. He may say, you don't trust me, you don't believe me. and call that out in front of the doctor. I'm struggling with connecting here, and it may be on me, but here's all the things we've been through. And that sort of clarity for a doctor would be a gift. And know this, you can't solve this anxiety disorder with your husband. You can't solve it. And it's going to be frustrating. Frustrating. Not a word. That's fantastical. It's going to be frustrating. What you can do is love him, not give in to either side of this thing, not give in to the despair and hitting him upside the head. And also, we're going to put some boundaries on how many times we go to the doctor, unless we have some real evidence that suggests you may have some maladies and some challenges. But I want us to talk to Tom, not to your husband, but I want us to talk to an external third Tom and begin to look at the data. It was feet, and then we had about a week of whatever this medication is, and it all went away. We had headaches, and we weren't able to solve them. We had backaches, we weren't able to solve them. Now our knees hurt, and there's no solving there, and now we're on to brain tumors. And hopefully, if we're talking to Tom, we can keep our brain plugged in. It won't go limbic on us. We'll be able to look at the data, and then at that point, we can say, okay, maybe it's something a little bit different. And I hate that for you. The last step you can do is you go see somebody. And you model counseling. You model living with somebody who's got lots of medical challenges. You can tell your husband this. I don't know how I can help you because you seem to be moving from medical challenge to medical challenge to medical challenge. And I want to love you, and I don't know how because every time we go get the medical challenge taken care of, there's no findings. And I'm struggling with how to love you in this situation. The hope being that he joins you. The hope being that you continue to invite him. You continue to say, I want to love you. I want to connect better. And I don't know how to do that. One final thing. Hold his hands every single day and look him in the eye and tell him that you love him. And I want you to begin practicing skin-to-skin contact. It can be sexual. It can be non-sexual. Begin to lean into, let's don't talk. I just want to hold you. I just want to touch your hands. I just want to touch your face. I want to touch your feet. I want to hold you. And the anxiety alarms begin to, whew. This one's tough, Elaine. Tough. If you're struggling with anxiety, go see somebody. You're worth it.